in the country. So this particular incident is a major setback to us as a people. I'm here with members of the National Assembly because we thoroughly investigate it. The technical people will carry out their responsibility to tell us what went wrong. But we'll also look at the administrative issues. That is the part the National Assembly will play, the part the government will also play. So at the end of the day, we'll make sure that this don't repeat itself again in this country. We recall that only on Saturday, we had also a similar incident in Ghana, where a Nigerian-based cargo plane had a similar incident. But that was not as devastating as this. So make sure that we do our best for this country and for the world, so that the Nigerian airspace will be a safe place. Let me especially thank the governor of Lagos State and the government of Lagos State for what they've been doing since the crash yesterday, because I've been in constant touch with the governor. Let me also thank all the federal government agencies and other private sector operators like Julius Beza and others who have been working with us voluntarily for these rescue operations. I've interacted with all of them, and they are progressing satisfactorily. Let me commend them and assure them that federal government and the state governments will continue to provide what is required for our safety operations. Opportunity to express my personal condolence to those who have directly lost their dear ones. It's a sad event for the whole country, and all of us feel touched for that.
In the camp of the PDP, because we have talked at length about the ACN. Now, let me fulfill that promise this morning by telling you a little bit about the credibility problem the PDP campaign is facing. Last week, a delegation of party leaders met Professor Osareme Osubo, the man ousted by the Court of Appeal, this row the government house reversed and victory given to Comrade Adams Oshomole. Before the court spoke at that time, Professor Osubo had been in office for almost 2 years, and so he could be regarded at least as grounded in the art of governance, with cognate experience as well. Not only that, Professor Osubo had been in the Senate for 2 terms, from 1999 to 2007, where he distinguished himself as one of the leading lights of the red carpet chamber. In the PDP governorship primaries, many have expected Professor Osareme Osubo to easily become the party's candidate at least to count on his experience, and also to fly the party's flag in the July 14 elections. But trust the PDP and its intrigues. A primary or something with a semblance of such was organized. Trust the godfathers. A man who had just retired from the Nigerian Army Finance Corps, Major General Charles Ariaveli, was preferred to a man who had served at least as governor for about 2 years. So patently manipulated was the primaries that all the other aspirants, notably Professor Sarebo Subo, Barrister Kenneth Imaswagbo, Professor Julius Eyovere, all of them left the venue of the primaries very bitter and very disappointed. Now, the chickens have come home to roost. The PDP needs to start its campaigns and needs everybody under the umbrella to be able to match the onslaught, the ferocious campaigns of the comrade governor. So far, both Osareno Osumo and Kenneth Imaswagbo have told the PDP not to count on them. Indeed, Professor Osumo pointedly told his kinsmen to look carefully around them and see the transformation that has taken place and the promise of more to come by the comrade governor's regime, and then decide for themselves who to vote for. Choose you these days who to serve. That's the message you give them. The learned professor of law is also reported to have flatly turned down offers made to him to lead the party's campaigns, saying he has no reason to be enthusiastic at all about the PDP. On this part, Barrister Kenneth Imaswagbo, who is still also licking his own wounds, inflicted on him by the rough tactics of the godfathers, had also told the party elders not to disturb his peace. In other words, he's still licking his wounds. Now, if you combine all of these with the choice of Senator Odion Ugbeshia as the Director General of the PDP campaign organization, here we are talking of a senator who for 8 years probably spoke only once and can be counted as one of the most lackluster senators at that time. Then you can understand why things appear to be at a complete standstill for the PDP. The choice of Ugbeshia itself is also seen as one of the intrigues of the godfather, you know. I don't want to say what people are saying in that. Let's go. The godfathers are playing off the party. We're talking of the intrigues that the godfathers are playing in the party. In the very end, the PDP is becoming the victim of its own machinations. Anyway, so much for politics in Edo State. Maybe tomorrow or some other time we'll tell you what is happening in the other political parties as well. We understand it's a kind of coalition that they are trying to work out. But how well that will work out, I will also tell you. So let me quickly inform you that our focus this morning is on constitutional amendment, and we are still looking at federalism as our structure or our preferred choice of government. How has it helped governance in Nigeria? Many observers easily blame our federal structure for the near stagnation we have now, as the center has become so bloated, so unwieldy, to the disadvantage of the federated units, that is the states and the local governments. We'll be examining all the arguments. We'll be examining our federal structure, compare it with other examples elsewhere in the world, all in a search for an ideal system. Join us shortly after this break.
want a good Nigeria.
People that are benefiting are the IOCs. Why? Because they have a tax regime, a royalty regime that was framed over 42 years ago.
Still with Morocco. Surely.
Explore Africa.
Encounter Africa.
Engage Africa.
Enjoy Africa's compelling,
exciting,
and breathtaking
experience
with Kakaki,
the African voice.
What has been failing before was that Nigerians became so docile. They didn't ask questions. They don't show interest on issues that are really burning their fingers and even affecting them on the cancer that is eating the nation.
We have a government that is accomplishing so little because it is attempting to do so much. Okay, if you're just joining us, we are ready as well for the discussions. Let me quickly introduce the guest this morning. Glad to have back with us. He's back on our radar again. Honorable Farouk Adamu Aliyu. He's a former member of the House of Representatives from Jigawa State. In the last elections in 2011, he was the governorship candidate of the Congress for Progressive Change in Jigawa State.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you, sir.
Thank you.
It's also my pleasure to welcome to the program. We're also getting him back after a long time. Honorable Frank Ideke. Honorable Frank Ideke is also a former member of the House of Representatives from Kogi State. You are in the PDP now?
I am in the PDP now.
You used to be the LPP?
That's right.
Good. All right. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Honorable Yusuf Tuga is also a former member of the House of Representatives, where he's also a member of the CPC. He was the candidate of the governorship candidate of the CPC for Bauchi State in 2011. Honorable, good to see you too.
Pleasure to be here.
Yes, I just told my producer that I hope I'll be able to withstand this CPC people this morning. But what is happening in your party? Which faction do you belong to?
No faction in PDP.
Not PDP. I'm not talking of PDP. I'm talking of CPC.
Well,
no, you are not in PDP.
No, well, you could see.
How do you know?
You could see my friend from PDP.
Because that is a claim.
That's popular. He's expressing the popular opinion.
That is a claim.
Okay, what is this tug of war between Buba Galadima and Tony Momo?
No, there is no problem between Buba Galadima and Tony Momo. Buba Galadima is the secretary of the party. Tony Momo is the chairman of the party. So there's nothing between them. Yeah, of course. I mean,
Galadima is not interested in becoming chairman of the party?
No,
that's not what the problem is?
No,
okay.
No, absolutely.
All right.
No, absolutely.
But we can trust on the political sagacity of the general to read everybody to learn.
Absolutely.
All right. 3 days of body. We're seeing body.
Yes.
Your quick take on the air crash. We thought we had put such incidents behind us since 2006.
Well, sadly, first of all, my heart felt condolences goes to the nation in general, families and members of all of us in this country over the tragic loss of life and property and this national calamity. But honestly, my take is corruption has killed those innocent Nigerians. That's my take. Because that's what all aspects of our life. So I hope we will get to the root of it.
Okay.
But if anything is if anything, history is anything to go by, you'll find out that we've had these kind of instances. Has anybody been penalized? Never. Have we ever gotten a report, correct report, about incidents that what happened, who was culpable? It's Nigeria for you.
Honorable Ideke, the president was there yesterday, again the province full government inquiry, but we do know that accidents also do happen. Even a brand new plane can crash.
Yeah,
but that is not to rule out negligence.
It's unfortunate really that we always propagate this issue of accidents used to happen, but from the first, we are told that over 80% of accidents are as a result of
human error.
And so why can we rule out the possibility of error from the beginning of that aircraft coming to Nigeria, from the point of maintenance, from the point of scheduling it to be worthy to fly? Like you said, is corruption not involved along the line? When I was in the House, I was a member of the aviation committee. Each time we schedule, I will tell you that at a particular time, 3 months or thereabout, an aircraft must go for a particular check, C check, A check, this and that, and the rest of it. They will tell you that the pilot and the crew are subjected to a lot of tests. Unfortunately, is that happening today? If people are claiming accident, you and I fly. Our experiences, are they not facts to show that the systems are not usually to the standard that is expected everywhere in the world? We fly locally here, you also fly abroad. Take a flight to Lagos from here and see the experience. Your heart is usually in your hand until you get down. So if anybody is telling me that everything, I heard an engineer on your TV this morning, I feel sad the way he was claiming as if everything is so perfect. So I hope that government will truly do this investigation and bring out the report, because that's what we see elsewhere.
Yeah. If we have a government that is doing so much to rehabilitate our airports and all of that, we can at least count on the government that it will not allow this incident to death that achievement. So we can hope that something at least should happen at the end of the investigations. Again, one worry that I have here, our plane is built to last forever, because even the airline admits that this aircraft is as old as 22 years. Our plane is built to last forever.
Well, to begin with, I empathize and I can share the feelings that those who have lost loved ones on that plane are going through at the moment, because I lost my sister in 2002 EAS plane crash. That's true. In Kano. Honorable Farouk Adenwaliu is fully aware of that. He knows, what we went through as a family back then. But you see, planes are a creation and operate on the culture of precision. When you talk about whether they're made to last forever, the culture of precision is what allows a society to create, to be able to manufacture the wing of a plane to begin with. If you get the wing of a plane wrong by 0.00 of a decimal point, that plane will crash. So that culture of precision is something that is imbibed in the society when they take themselves seriously. They ensure the minimal level of corruption. You cannot say a country is completely devoid of corruption, but the most minimum level of corruption, discipline, and the culture of precision. One of the attributes or a dimension of a culture of precision is punctuality. So to begin with, let us start examining ourselves. How punctual are we? This is the starting point. Otherwise, we really ought not to be flying about in these planes, that operate on turbine engines. Let us revert to what we can maintain. Prop planes. Because we're playing with
propeller planes.
Yes, because we have not imbibed in that culture of precision.
Propeller planes.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Let us
all those Tupolev.
Yes.
No, Tupolevs are not. We have them in Nigeria. We have propeller engines.
Yeah, but even propeller planes too would need to be maintained.
It's true.
So if we are talking of maintenance and the culture of discipline, that can, even if it is bicycle, if your attitude towards riding a bicycle is that of a discipline, you will crash.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think 22 years should have been enough for whoever invested in the plane to make his
money back
and confide it to the archives or the museums. Anyway, like you said, I have to go out to the victims.
You know, you remember these Godons, you know, there's this comedian, you know, who says that, you know, the government will tell you not to buy Tokumbo, but then the government will allow Tokumbo players to come, to operate. You know, so, I mean, it's true. It's like a joke, but then it's
if
true.
You can't buy a Tokumbo car that is over 10 years old. I don't think we should allow players that are over 20 years old into our
Exactly. You know, so.
It's all right. We are back to a familiar terrain, constitutional amendment. You had the opportunity when you were in the National Assembly. Yours was the 5th National Assembly. 5th.
Yeah, 5th, yeah.
5th, yes. Of course, you had the opportunity of amending so many portions of the Constitution, but of course, just one item torpedoed all of that. The third term issue which crept into the agenda, torpedoed everything. But then the 6th Assembly was able to bring that change.
Yes.
With some minimal level of
I think 3 amendments. So.
Yeah, 3. But in the areas that were precise, that were yearly, then naturally didn't constitute serious acrimony. But we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the areas that are very divisive, very political now. How do you see the efforts this time? How do you take it to succeed?
You know, honestly, if you look at the constitution of this country, to me personally, 5% of the constitution is all right. Honestly, 95%. But the operators, that's us, the political elite, we simply do not operate the constitution as it's supposed to be operated. There are so many sections of the constitution, yes, there are defaults here and there, but do we operate the present system the way it should be operated? I mean, take the fiscal responsibility, you know, commission. I mean, I remember very well when it was enacted the act, and if you look at what the act says, like the medium-term expenditure framework, do we really have those kind of things? So
have we ever tried to comply with that?
Exactly. Have we ever tried to comply with that thing? And so when you start talking about fiscal responsibility and so on, look, have you done what you're supposed to do? Last year, the Minister of Finance laid before the National Assembly, if I remember very well, the midterm framework, where they refused to couch the fuel subsidy issue. They didn't do it. The National Assembly tried to do it. Now, can the Minister of Finance or the federal government tell Nigerians that on which framework are we working today? The cash plan that is supposed to be adhered to. I mean, so if you look at all these kind of things, if you don't do them correctly, how do we start talking about amending anything? To me, let us, the political class, agree to please work according to the Constitution. If you look at Section 16 of the Constitution, I mean, Section 16, 2A, you know, where it speaks about there should be shelter for you and I, there should be care for the aged, there should be pension, there should be this and that.
That falls squarely within Chapter 2 of the Constitution.
Well, exactly. You know, so, I mean, do we do this kind of... Well, but yeah, what I'm saying, so if the government does not, you know, if the government shirks its responsibility, if we, I mean, as the political, and I'm one of them, if we shirk in our responsibilities, I mean, how do we talk about other amendments, which honestly, to me, yes, it's good to amend the Constitution, but let's please attempt to do what is right now, first of all.
Okay. Honorable Ideke, are you one of the people who believe that the Constitution, that there's nothing wrong with the Constitution, even if anything is wrong with it, we can still make do with it, that the problem is with the operators?
Yeah, like my colleague was just saying the other time, precision. There is one thing that is obvious about life, the character that you exhibit. If we look at to medieval age and what we see they do, we still refer to them, to our, you know, local background. At the age we do not have, you know, colonial point of administration in our land, people had a character, people had habit, people have what they considered bad and good. And because they practice them conscientiously, the society was egalitarian in a way. So it is not all about fast rules that you put on the ground. It is all about, just like you say, how do you really interpret, implement those characters that are there. We're just talking about aircraft crashing and result. Of course, there are rules that are laid down for the operation of airlines. If you follow those rules very well, there's no reason why you should have controversial issues like this. And so, to me, it is not issue of about amending constitution today, amending today. As a lawyer, I know that there's nothing that is fundamentally wrong with our constitution. Okay. It is our people. After all, this constitution are also subject to interpretation of judges when it comes to implementing or understanding what the provision actually mean, when you and I cannot understand it literally. So why are we talking about amending and amending and amending? In UK, in Britain, we say they have an unwritten constitution, and yet they have a very clean society, a society that will envy up to tomorrow. So what's this issue of amendment every day, and to play to the gallery of young people who are helpless in a way by the elite society, just like you say.
Okay, Honorable Tuga, where do you start on this issue? Is the problem with the constitution, or is the problem with the operators? Like Honorable Ideke said, after all, there are countries that don't have constitutions, at least in the written form like we have ours. But even then, in those countries, they have norms. Norms compel compliance, probably more than laws. Because here you are talking of societal beliefs, things that you and I have mutually agreed that this is what will bind us.
Well, at the end of the day, the major challenge would always be the sincerity of purpose and the will to implement. But given the situation we find ourselves in today in Nigeria, and the waywardness of our political elite, I think we have no choice but to make certain amendments in order to begin to set things right. For instance, I would love to see an amendment that would tackle the issue of the National Judicial Council, the fact that the Chief Justice of the Federation is the chairman of the National Judicial Council.
Who determines at least about 24 others.
Exactly.
Who becomes members.
Exactly. I have personal experience with that. For instance, during my tribunal case appeals, I ended up in the Supreme Court. There was a panel of 5 Supreme Court judges, and the case was to be heard. It was heard on a Thursday. We returned on a Monday. We were asked to return on a Monday. We came in on a Monday. There was a new panel. The Chief Justice of the Federation had taken over with 4 other judges. Fresh new panel.
After the case,
and the person sitting right next to him happened to be Justice Ibrahim Tonko from Bauchi State. And I went up to my lawyers and said, look, how can you, isn't there some conflict of interest here? We have a new panel, and right next to the head of the panel is a judge from Bauchi State. What do we do? They said, well, the alternative is you go to the National Judicial Council. But if you go there, you're going to meet this same man there. He's the chairman of it. So you see, sort of situations we find ourselves. Secondly, the issue of independent candidature. I think it would make some of the political parties sit up. All of them, including the CPC. I'm not, isolating.
So you do believe that there are certain aspects of the constitution?
Yes, in the Sixth Assembly we try to push that through. Well. Thirdly, the issue of funds going to the state legislatures to make them more independent, because at the moment they're just robbing. So if, just like the NJC and the judiciary has a first line charge which goes directly into the consolidated from the consolidated revenue fund to them, I think if there's a way possible without the governors arm twisting the state houses of assembly, because
the National Assembly, for example, is a first line charge.
Yes.
Well, it is, but...
by virtue of the amendment carried out in 2010.
Yes.
The National Assembly also wanted to make the state legislature.
Yes.
But they refused.
They themselves, refused to pass it.
But they are saying it too now, having seen how financial autonomy has helped the Lagos State House of Assembly that has just built a brand new complex for itself through its financial autonomy.
Lastly, another area that, I feel there's some sort of inconsistency is part 3 of I think chapter 2 of the Constitution.
Which where you talked about that?
No, this is where the states of the federation are listed. Okay. And then I think also Schedule 4, where you have local governments and all of that. Now, when you talk about revenue allocation, and you say that the boundary of littoral states extends into the Atlantic Ocean, whereas in the Constitution it is clearly defined, and by implication it is the low water mark. We either have to address this issue, either revert to the low water mark, or if we want to change it, then we change it to extend all the way to Bonga or wherever else. So
just 2 quick ones of what he said. About the littoral states, probably my friend and colleague had forgotten that really there was an interpretation by the Supreme Court.
By the Supreme Court,
on that issue. So I think it's a non-issue, certainly. And then talking about these sections he spoke about. Yes, it's his opinion, but let's even talk about laws, making laws and not being the freedom of information. Look.
Just that I needed to remind you about the literal state issue. That
I know there's a Supreme Court interpretation.
The question is whether the
Court can be wrong as well.
Yeah, the question is even whether what we are doing now is even an enforcement of the Supreme Court's decision. It will apply as if it's not.
Well,
yeah, because by interpretation of the Supreme Court, some states that had pride themselves as oil-producing states
are not.
Discovered that they were not.
Yes. Because
you discover that where oil is actually explored is not within your territory.
So we're still coming back to no need for all these amendments. Do we work within the Constitution as it is today? We don't.
We don't need amendments.
No. What I'm saying.
Well, as far as that particular issue is concerned. Because your colleague has raised so many issues.
I understand. Look, all these things are true. Yeah. But now, when you speak about like Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of Nigeria ought to be, the Constitution never envisaged you will have a Chief Justice of Nigeria who will do what he said the CJN did. So I want you to understand that. So the Constitution never envisages that a judge from Bauchi State will sit on the same panel where Bauchi State case is being,
But the Supreme Court anticipated that the Chief Justice of Nigeria will can preside over panels.
Absolutely. And then
but the Supreme Court also is very certain as to how you pick members of the agency. That the chairman is this person, and that the chairman shall pick this person, If you look at the composition of the agency, the chairman, who is the Chief Justice of Nigeria, nominates more than half of the members.
I know. But
the law is certain about that.
Yeah, the Constitution never envisaged at all that there will be a CJN who will not abide by the oath of office. If all of us,
because of the peculiar nature of our country,
if all of us abide by the oath of office and oath of allegiance, I am telling you all these things will not happen.
All right. Let me direct the discussion this morning to the specific area that I actually like us to focus. You have said that there's nothing wrong with the Constitution. How about
I'm not saying there is nothing wrong.
Okay, you said the Constitution is right, at least okay, at least up to 90%.
If we can operate it, absolutely.
Yeah. But let me direct your attention to the particular structure of government that we have. Is it right that we run a federal structure where all the attention is on the center, where the states, the federated units, come cap in hand, begging bowl in hand every month to come and sit around the table and decide how to share resources that came in the first place from these same federated units, rather than the federated units sit on their own, tap all those resources into a bowl, and decide what percentage of it to give to the federal for the collective maintenance of the nation.
I totally agree with that particular issue. That look, we as a people should even sit and decide: do we want to be the same? Do we want to have one country? Do we want to be Nigeria as it is called today? And I totally agree with this resource control issue. Let them carry their resources. I mean, there is nothing wrong with that.
So to that extent, you disagree with the assertion in the Constitution here?
Yes.
Therefore,
yes.
Let me just...
Because it has not worked.
Yes. That Nigeria is one indivisible, indissoluble nation.
Well, but let me tell you, that's
what it means.
No, that's what the Constitution says. But then,
yes.
Look, Benga, if I fly from Kano to Port Harcourt, I know I'm in a completely different place. If you try to tell me that I am the same with man from Ijo or an Ijo man, it's not. I'm deceiving myself. Let's agree that look, we are completely different, and then we want to live together. But look, we're just deceiving ourselves. That is why the problem of this resource control, comes from. I mean, Edwin Clark keeps saying that the Northerners, like we are leeches. Fine. If probably they will take their resources, and we'll also take ours, even if we don't have anything. So, as at today,
you cannot say you have. That's a great part of what we made to get to where we continue this discussion. You cannot say you don't have resources.
Of course we do. Of course, I know. That's what I'm saying. If every state will be allowed to contribute to the federation, take your resources. I totally agree with this particular, there should be amendment of this particular section, so that, because after doing that, we will then decide, we will see that, look, I'm from Jigawa State, the remote part of this country. Do the people of Niger Delta want Jigawa to be part of, Niger Delta? Because as it is today, the oil in Bonga belongs to the people of Jigawa State as well, according to this constitution. It belongs to all of us, but it is bringing a lot of friction amongst us, and it's bringing a lot of trouble. It's bringing a lot of acrimony between us. So I totally agree, yes, we should sit as a people and decide how to go about this revenue sharing. I think that particular section is the most fundamental part of the Constitution that should be amended.
You concede to that?
Yes, I concede to that.
Okay. Do you also think that it is right to have a federal structure where Abuja is the one that tells you whether in Jigawa State you should have 5 local governments for administrative conveniences, or you should have 20 local governments for administrative conveniences?
I also don't agree with that. That's what I'm saying.
So you are beginning to agree now that your 90% is we are chipping away.
No. But 90%. This could be part of a 10%.
Honorable, okay. Yes. We are looking particularly at the kind of structure that we run as a government, which is a derivative of the Constitution. Yes. What do you have to say to the kind of federal structure that we run, if you compare it with other federal structures that we have seen there as well?
Yes.
Is there a problem there?
Well, from the holistic point of view, there is problem. Problem in the sense that this manipulation is always there. Look, if you like, shrink Nigeria into family units. Once we said before, sincerity of purpose, honesty is not applied in our day-to-day running of administration of every of these units, this complaint will always be there. Today, you go to every state of the federation today, there are groups that still complain that they are marginalized. They have resources because their son is not the governor, they are not recognized, they are not given opportunities. Those are issues that are obviously existing at every level. So if indeed, even if we decide to say we are a country, a federation country, where powers are derived from the center, if these powers are done properly, manipulated properly, is it manipulation? No. Administered properly the way it ought to be, these problems will not be there. Today you hear people talk about Jonathan has appointed all the jobs into the so-called juicy position in the country. Is that supposed to be so? If people are complaining, chairman of a local government puts all people from his village into the payroll of the local government administration. Is it supposed to be so? So whatever you do today, if the force of implementation of the rules and regulations that is guiding every set of units in our country, you cannot get to anywhere. to punish somebody who have done wrong. They are there, even if they consider they are there in a lot of our statutes. But do we follow them? We are talking about so many things that are wrong in the system, first and foremost, that we are not applying this law. Are they happening? In the National Assembly, let me go back to the financial autonomy that I talk about. What is the objective? Objective is to be able to have force to control the enormous power in the House, in the hands of the members of the National Assembly, the executive. But today, from the 6th Assembly that just passed, how forceful were they against the executive to make sure that appropriate development, administration of the resources of this country is applied to the people of something? Was corruption not thriving? Were people not crying? So it doesn't matter what you looked at. Are the people, the ordinary Nigerians, not also looking at the National Assembly as corrupt? Okay. So look at that issue. It's complex. But I think at the basic line of it is, when shall we really hold leaders to accountable? Where would Nigerians come to say, like you say, if you are a member of the Congress in America and they see you with a girlfriend, you have already saved yourself. You are in trouble. So when at that level?
All right. It's okay. Honorable Tuga.
You see, what the states are accusing the federal government of doing to them, they're doing unto the local government. They're doing exactly the issue of local governments and local government funds is there in the Constitution. If you look at Section 162, if I'm correct.
Sorry, I didn't know. I want to narrate an experience. In Maiduguri in 1989, I was in court. One Justice Tonye is from Anambra, but he came to Maiduguri for, I think, maybe a tribunal matter or something. He said he had lived in Aba, which was then in Imo State, and that for 30 years he was there. But up at that time, that he was considered a stranger. It's an Igbo man to Igbo man that in Aba, he was considered a stranger. So this issue of Nigeria being one, just like he was saying, I think we're just playing, lip service to ourselves.
Yeah, the area I actually want to direct you to is the kind of federal structure that we have, where the center decides virtually everything. Even where a cemetery should be started in the state, it's almost a federal decision. Where a market should be started, where a supermarket should be started, is almost a federal decision.
I don't agree with that.
Exactly.
I don't think that is the case. It's not. As a matter of fact, the Constitution clearly stipulates. If you look at Schedule 4, yes, it clearly stipulates whose responsibility it is to site cemeteries, take care of them, taxes, local governments. But you find that it's the states, it's the governors, that decide that, because they hold on to the purse. Sometimes the funds probably don't even go into the joint local government accounts, or if they do, they hijack them and they decide what stipend they give the local government. And the local governments are not even elected. The local government councils.
Don't you see something wrong with the centrifugal pull to the center, where the center is so attractive to everybody, and the federated units either have been emasculated of their thinking. Virtually none of them is wearing the thinking cap to see how things can be done differently. Everybody's attention is on Abuja every month.
Some of them are enjoying it. They're coming along for the ride. They don't want to wake up to their responsibilities. They do not want to make their states viable. So, they are equally enjoying it. So it's not entirely the federal government that is insisting they hold on to the powers. No, they're saying, look, we don't want to do anything back home. We want to share from the oil proceeds.
Yeah, and it came from those places to the center in the first place.
Not necessarily.
Abuja doesn't produce.
Not necessarily. Bonga is not in any state. Akpo field is not in any state. These are deep water blocks. there's oil, there's gas there.
There are states that are contiguous.
They are not contiguous. You cannot go all those miles out in the sea and tell me that.
And you don't get to those places by just dropping from the sky.
Well, you can go around. A Senegalese man can
pass through territory either through Bayelsa to get to.
And the same way
pass through rivers to get there.
The same way
Delta to get
employing late Dr. Yusuf Bala Usman's argument. The same way the carcasses of cows of people in Mali finds its way down through the West African drainage system, down the river Niger, is deposited in Bonga, accumulates and becomes hydrocarbon.
Carcasses of cows.
Malu.
Because
yes. And the bones of some of my forefathers in Udubo, in Gama local government. So
this is very interesting. I thought what I heard was that it was the rain that fell in those places.
No, it's the drainage system. It's the river Niger. It's the river Niger. If you look at it, look at the alluvial deposits and how deltas are formed all over the world. They're deposits over years, sedimentation.
But the truth of the matter is that
out there.
The truth of the matter is that there are still natural resources that have not been washed down from there, from Mali, Songhai down to the south, that are still there. That if the states are allowed to exist as don't want to use the word confederate, but autonomous, and they can tap those resources on their own for the development of their areas.
On a serious note, I actually agree with that. I've been advocating for something like that. We need stripper wells in the Niger Delta, okay? And not necessarily even in the Niger Delta. You have gas discovery in Kolmani River in Bauchi State by SNEPCO. Why can't we tap something like that? Why does it have to be in federal hands? Why does it have to be the federal government that is controlling it? So at that level, yes, I'm all for it, and I think it would even be a wake-up call for the governors, for the states, to become more viable. So I'm all for that.
Because when you do a comparative analysis of the trajectory of Nigeria's history, when we started off 1954 up to 1966, where we were running a particular type of government,
it's true.
where the regions were almost semi-autonomous, there was greater development.
Absolutely.
Because the states could develop, the regions could develop at their own pace, and they were also still sustaining the central by contributing a percentage of what they had. But the buck stayed with them because they were the ones that owned the resources. And the stride of development data was faster and was wider.
I think, honestly, oil, it's a curse to the northern part of this country. When I was a child, remember the pyramids in Kano of groundnuts. You can never find it. I mean, the whole northern states cannot produce one pyramid now. One. Because there is oil. Because they will come to Abuja and take money. I mean, so if we can concentrate on agriculture in the north, I'm sure go back to olden days. Probably there will not be problem of this no money in Jigawa, no money in Bauchi, and so on. Because the governors, the government collectively have, abdicated, forgotten completely about agriculture. Completely. Because we are all in the northern part of this country into subsistence farming. How can we feed ourselves? We can't even feed ourselves. So honestly, as my friend said, it should be a wake-up call. We should change that aspect of the Constitution and go back to let everybody control his or her resources. I totally agree with this. That will make Niger, are they not controlling their own resources? They didn't have oil. They are surviving. There are still people there. And if you go to Niger Republic today, they are, it's a very poor country. But the way things work in Niger do not work in Nigeria. Because, look, they know they don't have oil. They know they don't have this. Everybody, those that can afford electricity have electricity in Niger. Those that can afford to have cash, go back to the, where we control, we cut our court according to our sizes. I'm sure this country will be a better place.
Honorable Ideki, what do you say to the argument? we're doing a comparison now between what we saw in the First Republic and what we have seen from the years of military rule up onto that. Because a lot of people will argue, and quite rightly as well, that it was the military command structure that you must have just one general who is commander-in-chief, and then have garrison commanders or divisional commanders and all of that. That's what we have just tried to edge into and knock into a law, which is what we have as a constitution right from 1979.
Yeah, I to some extent agree with that. However, I still like us to go back to, I said earlier on, what was the society, the pre-colonial, colonial period, and then when we have our independence, even the time of the military that we're talking about. What are the sequence of actions taken by the Nigerian people? In my place, if you are of age, you are under your father, you are working for him all the year round, and your father gives you an independence. He gives you a portion of the land and says, now begin to farm on your own. The zeal to be independent and the effort you are going to put is far, far better than when you are still...
Yeah, because you know that you are now also a finisher of your own
that does not stop you from supporting your father when your yield is very good. So I think that is the point which I said, that independent in terms of our resource, developing our resources is very important here. The other aspect I think we should really look at, as a lawyer, there are two systems of law that are practiced most part of the country in the world, the inquisitorial and the acquisitorial. It means one system is that which we are operating now. Government is compelled to prove that I am corrupt. The other system is that which is, if Benga, you come here and see me with a phone, and you suspect that that phone does not belong to me, it's on me to prove that I am the owner of this phone. Yeah, so now that I expect there's an amendment, we should adopt that system. Okay. Where a situation where directors have houses in Metama and you calculate their salary for the 35 years they are supposed to be in service.
To pay for the rest in the
when members of my due respect to, including me, member of the National Assembly, if you look at what the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission provide as our earning put together, it's not enough to buy one car that colleagues are using today. How do you really account for all these things? Those are the only way that you can get the system right.
Okay, our time is fast spent, Honorable. Can you be just quick with it? I just need to give you that fair chance.
Well, the people are not the same. People in the First Republic are not the same as the people we have today, as leaders, as governors, and if you don't have that check and balance, at the federal level, I wouldn't want to imagine some of the atrocities that would be committed by.
But was it better in the First Republic?
It was to a certain extent. To a certain extent, it was.
All right. We advance along that line. I don't know where that will be. We've largely talked about the economic side of it, but the political side of it is really also very germane. We need to also talk about it. What should be the relationship between the center and the federative units? Thank you so very much, gentlemen. I'll be joined in the discussions this morning by Honorable Farouk Adamu Aliyu. He's a former member of the House of Representatives, former governorship candidate.
Former minority leader.
So former minority leader too in the House of Representatives. Thank you so very much. We appreciate your time. Right. And of course, former member of the House of Representatives as well, Honorable Frank Ideke. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Also, former member of the House of Reps, former governorship candidate as well, Honorable Yusuf Tuga. Thank you so very much. I appreciate
Always a pleasure.
Right. That's the program this morning. We will be back tomorrow, God willing. We hope we'll be able to also count on you then. My name is Ben Garudi. I'll see you tomorrow.
AIT, sharing the African experience.
Ask me, say.
Between three nurses and a doctor, find out what matters in Clinic Matters.
And I wonder what someone like you is doing with such a noble profession where so much courtesy is required. Can you attend to this woman?
Because the nurse who has a pilot just gone into protect her temperature. No plan to tell his wife until the other lady delivers. You're heartless. Is this our business if your husband impregnates another woman? The only problem I have is with people making silly and grave mistakes, especially in marriage. You are a nurse and not a marriage counselor.
The jealous man that doesn't like sharing some of my personal effects with anybody.
Women are not regarded as personal effects.
Plenty time is over. Enemy of progress.
If my husband comes and says, make her no work, I go quickly fine.
The new month of the new year usually comes with a lot of challenges for so many people. Nigerians are not left behind.
Get the most current updates and business round the globe on The Money Show.
If you look at Nigeria and our people, a lot of people actually plan for the year from January up to December.
Serious.
I wanted to avoid it, but I thought of running away.
You thought of me.
What are you doing here?
David! You want your game man to stop me from entering your house?
I want to let you know that I will win the competition.
When the thunder strikes, fear, shame. When the fear strikes, there comes confusion, devastation, deception, disbelief, love, and dismay. Trust in man is deadly. Your close friend, your worst enemy. The Burning Spear. Burning Spear, a story of multi-identity, suspense-filled, educative, and entertaining. The Burning Spear.
Come on, let's go.
Nonsense nowhere. It's just a bunch of prejudices about the different communities, but nothing substantial about the cause of the conflict.
It is becoming expensive to have you there.
If it was you that lost your brother, would you do it?
Family ties, a thorn in the flesh.
To be seeing my daughter every day is not small money.
The daughter, when he's concerned,
my pocket is never afraid. I will do everything.
Yeah, I don't like anything that has to do with jazz.
Come, you be like say hungry, never why are you rich, Abby?
You know nothing about football, so there's no point in him.
Organizer, come on, your body. This one not the bubble.
Ah! Oh, well, see, baby, it's not my money.
Between 3 nurses and a doctor, find out what matters in Clinic Matters.
And I wonder what someone like you is doing with such a noble profession where so much courtesy is required. Can you attend to this woman?
Because the nurse who has the pilot just gone into prepare to take her temperature. No planning to tell his wife until the other lady delivers. It's not heartless. Is this our business if your husband impregnates another woman? The only problem I have is with people making silly and grave mistakes, especially in marriage. You are a nurse and not a marriage counselor.
A jealous man that doesn't like sharing some of my personal effects with anybody.
Women are now regarded as personal effects. Flirting time is over.
Then name your progress.
If my husband comes and say, make I no work, I go quick to be fine.
Budgeting. Questions such as, do we need an NMPC in the first place, must be asked. My view, we don't.
He is the field officer. He has the responsibility to ensure all operations regarding arrest and all that is conducted in the usual manner.
Engage in emerging topical issues in the polity.
The mere fact that we pay for 24 million liters of petrol on a daily basis, which is not is shocking. And I think by now people should be resigning their appointment.
It's supposed to be a business, but it has become another arm of government, and it's also suffering from the malaise that have bedeviled government in Nigeria.
We want a good Nigeria.
People that are benefiting are the IOCs. Why? Because they have a tax regime, a royalty regime that was framed over 42 years ago.
Still with Morocco. Surely.
Explore Africa.
Encounter Africa.
Engage Africa.
Enjoy Africa's compelling,
exciting,
and breathtaking
experience
with Kakaki,
the African voice.
Now listen. The law is now beyond argument.
AIT, sharing the African experience.
Whatever element as contained in this must be thoroughly investigated, but not play politics with the issues of wages.
Hello, and thanks for staying with us on Africa Independent Television, AIT. You are welcome to Inside the Parliament. It is a program that we feed you on reports, interviews, analysis of issues before the National Assembly. I am Okiria Agbonsu Remi. As usual, every Tuesday, we give you all that is happening within the National Assembly, with particular reference to law formulation, the way they are made, and how it impacts, all of them generally impact on the society. It's a period of mourning, national mourning, I must say, in the country following Sunday's Dana plane crash in Nigeria, in which several Nigerians lost their lives. A lot of messages have been flowing from the legislature at the individual level and at the level of the House of Representatives and the Senate.
the federal government has declared 3 days of national mourning in honor of the victims. And since the Nigerian legislature is not exempted from the what around, we probably will not expect much deeper deliberations today, maybe on issues with regard to the plane crash itself. And so we have also gotten reactions for you from the legislature. Those who are in charge with oversight, they have been speaking, and we have on tape such reactions. Last Tuesday was observed in Nigeria as Democracy Day. Nigeria again went in a circle of 1 year more in our democratic march since 1999. 13 years running, and being the first legislative day today, neither of the two chambers sat on that day as members observed the day as a public holiday to have a link with the rest of Nigerians. And so even when it was a legislative day that they should sit, they were home to observe the public holidays. Some of them, however, that is members of the legislature, took some retrospective look at the past years, 13 years that we have had, and said the period has been used by Nigerians to deepen our young democracy. And we can also tell you that the National Assembly resumed plenary soon after their holidays, and let us took on issues such as the fashioning out of a constitutional role for our traditional rulers. So many people have been saying that the role for traditional rulers should be specific in the Constitution. They should be made so that they can be held responsible for whichever area they are assigned duties. The possibility of removing the autonomy from the Central Bank of Nigeria through an amendment of its Enabling Act was also one on the table. That is to ensure that the government at the grassroots, there are also who also brought in issues with regard to the running of local government, ensuring that governments that are run at the local government level are properly elected officials, as well as the issue of amnesty for terrorist groups around Nigeria. These are some of the issues that have been in the bonus in the last 1 week, when indeed the legislature will be busy formulating laws. You will be hearing about all this, and we have a guest that is also coming in because the aviation industry is on top of the burner. We want to find out from our guest if it's possible to legislate against these crashes. Can we make it stronger for the regulatory authorities and agencies to indeed do their job better? Are there things that are not being done? Are there things that are being done that should also be legislated against? Some of them we'll take up in the course of our discussion. But we'll just take a break and go to our newsroom, where we have legislative reports for you, some of the news we have compiled for you with regard to keeping you abreast of the issues in the National Assembly. We'll come back with that news, and after that news segment with the issues we have for you. Please don't go away. You are inside the Parliament on Africa Independent Television.
So the autonomy of the local government is very vital and very important, and we need to support this bill so that local government can have their autonomy. Hence, therefore, based on my simple analogy of the foundation of a building, I so support. Politics, issues, wages, and taxes.
You now read the second time, say aye. Again, say aye now.
Hello and welcome. I'm Egosa Higumbo with the Parliamentary News. The House of Representatives says it will get to the root of Sunday's Dana plane crash in Lagos and ensure that those responsible are held accountable. Chairman of the House Committee on Aviation, Nkirika Onyejocha, indicated this while addressing National Assembly correspondents in Abuja on Monday. AIT's Shalakin Sonia reports.
Nigeria, as 153 of its citizens lost their lives in a Dana airplane crash in the area of Lagos on Sunday. The incident has been generating reaction, especially from the executive arm of government, which has declared a 3-day national mourning for the worthy Nigerians who died in the crash. Echoing the reaction of the House of Representatives on the crash, the chairman of the Committee on Aviation, Nkiruka Uyejocha, said the House received the news with disbelief and immense sadness.
Our condolence goes to the families of the bereaved, both in this incident and that of the cargo airplane that crashed at Accra, Ghana, which also killed about 10 people.
Called on the country's aviation regulating authorities to thoroughly investigate and explain to Nigerians what actually happened.
This incident should be thoroughly investigated to determine the exact cause of the accident in order to prevent similar occurrences in the future. While we await the full report of the crash, the House of Representatives Committee on Aviation will get to the root of this matter and ensure that people are held accountable.
Another member of the House, Aminu Jonathan, described the incident as unfortunate, coming at a time when Nigeria is making some giant strides in the aviation industry.
That to me, I think, has really set us back. It has really retarded the progress of achievement that we have witnessed in the aviation industry. And it's quite unfortunate. It's quite very, very unfortunate.
Meanwhile, flags are flying at half-mast at the National Assembly in observance of the 3-day national mourning declared by the federal government for the victims.
The proposed amendment to the Central Bank of Nigeria CBN Act has met with stiff opposition from the executive arm of government. The position was canvassed by a majority of participants who want total independence for the Apex Bank at the Senate public hearing on a bill to amend the Act.
The objective behind the CBN Amendment Act is to control the powers of the central bank to appropriate and spend money without recourse to the National Assembly. Lawmakers are of the view that the CBN has continued to abuse the provisions of Section 80 of the Nigerian Constitution, but the executive arm holds a contrary view.
The principle of checks and balances. There's no power that's absolute in itself. And that's why even governors, with the immunities they possess in the Constitution, the law also provides that the governor can be impeached for certain reasons.
Over time, the world realized that the central banks that actually have been doing well are those that have been given independence.
Central banks have policy independence, they have financial independence, they have, and that is in 75% of countries.
Both current and past managers of the Apex Bank, as well as key players in Nigeria's financial system, argued that the proposed amendment is inimical to the monetary policy implementation of the bank and may subdue it to undue political interference.
Because of the autonomy of the central bank, there is a distinction between the assets of the central bank and the assets of government. Which means, for example, all those court cases in which injunctions were received on the funds of the federal government, nobody can have access to the reserves of Nigeria because they are central bank assets. Once the central bank loses financial autonomy, those assets are government assets.
The Central Bank of Nigeria was modeled on the British Bank of England. The Central Bank of Nigeria was modeled on the British Bank of England. And the Bank of England was set in a way that it is independent from intervention on day-to-day basis from the government, but it's related to government and is related to the commercial and the industrial sector. In 1978, since then, although I've left, I still have an active interest in the workings of the system. And I agree with my tenure here that the central bank has been performing particularly well. Why? Because it has had this independence from the political authority to discharge its mandate.
The CBN Amendment Act proposed by Senator Ita Enang followed the refusal of the Central Bank Governor, Sanusi Lamido, to submit the bank's 2012 budget for approval by the National Assembly. Meanwhile, a similar amendment is being considered at the House of Representatives, seeking to determine the composition of the CBN board.
And the Nigerian Senate last week began moves to recognize the role of the traditional institutions in national development. Now, this is courtesy of a bill sponsored by Senator Abdullahi Adamu, seeking to confer constitutional roles on the nation's royal fathers.
Traditional institution in Nigeria has been a veritable component of Nigeria's constitutional democratic governance. Besides the 1976 local government reform, which distanced traditional rulers from the local administration, and the 1999 constitution, which completely ignored the traditional institution, all other constitutions right from 1914 attempted to provide a role for traditional rulers. The bill under consideration seeks, among other provisions, the establishment of the National Council of Traditional Rulers.
There is no doubt that the existence or even isolation of the traditional institution from our democratic dispensation has a dangerous tendency to distort and render incomplete our democratic process. We have retired generals, retired judges, eminent scholars who are now sitting in traditional seats. Our traditional institutions are unifying institutions, which we have neglected over the years.
And I have many of them are watching me, and they also react and understand why I believe they should not be given constitutional roles.
A bill to establish the National Council of Traditional Rulers in the Federal Republic of Nigeria and further matters related thereto. Second reading taken.
Having scaled the second reading, the bill was committed to the Committee on Constitutional Review. The presiding officer earlier read an executive communication in which President Goodluck Jonathan sought the approval of the Senate to appoint Ekpo Nta as substantive chairman of the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission, ICPC. At the committee room, the Senate Committee on Environment held a public hearing on a bill to establish an Erosion Control and Prevention Commission. The move to establish the Erosion Control Commission is coming even as the federal government is working on pruning the number of federal government agencies. Ehidu Anyago, AIT News, Abuja.
Some Nigerian legislators say the last 1 year has witnessed a deepening of democracy in spite of the numerous challenges the country has faced. They expressed this opinion in Abuja as the country celebrated another Democracy Day last Tuesday. AIT Shalakin Soyem tells us more.
This year's Democracy Day celebration is the 13th since the country returned to democratic governance in 1999. It also coincides with the 4th year anniversary of the President Goodluck Jonathan administration. What have been the gains of democracy for Nigerians in the past 1 year?
We have fared well in deepening democracy, in deepening the doctrine of separation of powers and checks and balances.
If you look at our aviation industry, today there's an attempt by the administration to create some parity between the Nigerian aviation practice and those of the international community by looking at some agreements and also renegotiating some of these agreements.
As of Goodluck Jonathan in the last 1 year have done quite well in the area of ensuring that we have adequate supply of petroleum in the streets. We have equally seen some transformation going on in the power sector. We have equally seen some, positive development in the educational sector, particularly the very recent one, which is the establishment of these Almajiri schools in the north.
For every day we spend as a nation in peace is something to consider as an achievement. Not to talk of 365 days.
There are, however, other legislators who feel that Nigerians have become poorer within the same period.
The lives of Nigerians have not improved. Rather, it has worsened. I mean, their lives have worsened. At the early part of this year, you had a sudden increase in the price of fuel, and Nigerians had to go to the street massively before it was brought back, but not to the former price that you had.
The lawmakers believe that fixing the power sector and tackling corruption and insecurity will make life better for Nigerians as the country marches into the future.
Nigeria's House of Representatives is seeking to abolish caretaker committees and transitional committees at the third level of governance. The move is through a bill to alter the provisions of the 1999 Constitution, making it mandatory for the election of chairmen and councillors of local governments to be held on a date prescribed by legislations of state houses of assembly. AIT's Chukwemeka Gwawike reports.
The amendment of Section 7 of the Constitution, which was proposed by Honorable Ali Ahmed, PDP Kwara State, seeks legal backing for a specific date prescribed by state assemblies for local council elections in the states. The lawmaker says if the amendment gets approval, the tendency of state governors running the affairs of the local councils with caretaker committees and transitional government will be a thing of the past.
The amendment being sought today is to further and protect this local government council by ensuring that elections are mandatorily held every interval, either 3 or 4 years.
It will help developmental progression in this country if elections into local government councils are conducted, so that we now have people who will be accountable for the finances or allocations given to local government.
The passage of the bill for second reading was hotly opposed by some lawmakers who argued that the issue should be taken to the court for proper interpretation.
If there are authorities or persons that are not complying with the provisions of the Constitution, this Parliament has the right to approach the Supreme Court and ask that such provisions should be interpreted.
If we should alter that Section 7 now, as far as I'm, what's going to happen? What's going to cost? So definitely we are developing in the area of democracy.
In another development, the House is urging the Federal Inland Revenue Service to investigate all corporate companies that have not complied with relevant tax laws in order to recover unpaid taxes to the federal government with a view to improving the internally generated revenue of the federal government.
There is this fear that one day this oil may dry. But one source of revenue that may never dry is tax. Because as long as there are businesses and transactions, tax will always accrue.
An ad hoc committee of the House yet to be set up has been mandated to investigate all